Hello, I'm Dr. Richard Harbart. Thank you for inviting me to participate in the conversation for this year's National Speech and Debate Education Day. Over the years in Western culture, from the Greeks until now, we have struggled with the hypothetical mind benders that challenge our perceptions and mental acuity. The one before us today, resolved science leaves no room for free will, wants us to consider in general whether human beings live with self-will or determination, and in specific whether science, whatever that means in this context, can claim an authoritative and final voice on the matter. Before we rush to judgment and attempt to answer that query, we must ask a prior question. What answer is actually possible, considering the sum of the knowledge available and the thinking surrounding the topic? The struggle we face at the outset is what we expect for an answer at the close. According to the challenge before us, it seems the debater is pressed to conclude with certainty that one side or the other is 100% correct 100% of the time. At least that's the way I read the statement. Frankly, it's a pretty tall standard in life for all but a few situations. Some arenas provide us with this certainty. Mathematics can offer up the internal sum of triangles and E equals mc squared. In philosophy, logic offers a tautology, that which is true by definition, like a bachelor is an unmarried man. Wisdom traditions suggest answers by observation. If you poke a wasp's nest or jump off the Empire State Building, the answer to what happens next is, well, concretely predictable. So we can point to certainty at or around 100% level in some very specific settings. Past that, the ability to know, measure, and decide almost anything about the human situation, human behavior, and human decision-making gets much more difficult. Observations from behavioral sciences, philosophies, law, and general life situations suggest a mass of options and possibilities along a lengthy continuum for even the simplest of choices. But those are not the only complications. Are we using a tool that measures everything that exists? The eyes measure a certain spectrum of light we call the visible spectrum, but there is much more to light rays than the limited tool the eye can discern. The proof that all galaxies were moving away was found after a shift in the red spectrum, far beyond the eye's capacity to measure, was found. Without the tools of telescope and infrared collectors, that knowledge could not be known. If we try to measure all of the potentials that make up free will and determination, do we have the suitable tools to gather the total and appropriate information? Then, can we even quantify the information we have to make a determination? Regarding the human being, who is made up of millions of years of evolution, undergoing many changes and mutations in physical and mental qualities, what to know for certain gets tougher to measure and even harder to claim as 100%. When we add to that arenas on the globe or areas of the globe we live in, cultural mores and habitations, religious beliefs and upbringing, the thought of knowing certain things at 100% about the deep internal workings and decision-making properties of such a species becomes virtually impossible. Also, we cannot pretend our individual personalities and thinkings don't add to our orientation. Much of the answer to this and many other questions in this category are understood by the aphorism, where you stand is determined by where you sit. That means that your circumstances shape the way you view life and reality. It won't change the number of degrees on the inside of a triangle, but it will change what you think about many things in life, including free will and determinism. Which set of facts you see to be most reasonable given the view from your life circumstances. I have the advantage of being an old guy, as you can see on the screen here. I've struggled with this question academically and personally in one way or another through many periods of my life. I can conclude through my experience that I've never found an argument about this subject that did not have some truth to it, and one I could not lend some credence to in a different way at a different time. Whether we know we have 100% free will or determination regarding such a species starts to slip quickly from our fingers. However, that does not mean we should not keep from trying. Over the years, we've invented such mind games simply because I think our brains work that way. If God created everything, well, who created God? Why is there anything? How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Because we can ask the question does not mean the answer, whether there is one or not, is available to us at this time or at any time. So what happens if we, or in this case the debater, asks the question of the question? The first thing that happens before we even get close to any answer is we're challenged to exercise our critical thinking apparatus. These mental gymnastics are designed to stretch the boundaries of our perceptions and our beliefs and recognize the many possibilities available besides the one or two we might be called to embrace. And worse, those other possibilities might in themselves actually be right. I know it's a dismal thought to those who are too well certain their opinion is the only possibility. And I think, in my own personal opinion, that's why people shut off their critical thinking abilities. It gets in the way of their prejudices, and prejudices in this world seem to be easier to keep than critical thinking is to do. Well, my small contribution to this discussion, if you couldn't tell by now, is the uncertainty principle. With a nod to Heisenberg, who created the concept out of quantum mechanics, it becomes applied to this specific aspect of the human condition to state in some instances there is so much to know, so much to identify, so much to quantify, and so much to correlate. The climb towards certainty becomes a mountain insurmountable. If there is so much lucid information on this theme, much of it quite credible on one side or the other, what can we know with a 100% certainty? Not very much, I suspect. But does this mean our quest is in vain? Oh, hardly. Some questions, both for the wonder and the excitement, are more fun while pursuing, testing, and balancing the options than coming to rest on one conclusion or another. The fun, like most things of true substance, is not held just in the arrival. When you come to an end, things rest, and I can think of nothing more dull and pedestrian than mental rest. So I wish you the very best in life that I can imagine, being able to embrace uncertainty as a friend and not as a foe. Fall in love with the quest more than the outcomes. Fall in love with the possibilities. Fall in love with the idea that a final 100% conclusion may not be available to you and may not even be necessary. I'd like to suggest that a legitimate argument on this topic is not to lock your thinking into believing that all the truth is found embracing one side or the other, but to champion the third option, the uncertain and the unknowable. This may be truly the only viable position in this dispute. But if you must conclude that there is 100% proof for free will determination, great. But don't wait too long before you allow yourself to begin doubting that certainty. I wish you a happy National Speech and Debate Education Day, but more, I wish you on that day and all others the excitement of testing the limits of critical thinking.